range of genres, including pop, R&B, hip hop, gospel, jazz, fusion, and film and TV cues. Uh, Join us today, the man himself, Samar Newsome. How you doing, Samar?
I'm great, man. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I was trying to give you one of those Steve Harvey introductions, man. I was trying to get everything and really hype it up. But like I said before we got started, it's definitely an honor to have you, man, because you could have been doing anything else with your time, but you're here with us today, so we definitely are grateful for you.
Pleasure's mine, man. The pleasure's all mine. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Of course, this is our first interview with you. So to break the ice, I want to know who is Mr. Samar Newsom outside of the music.
Oh man, I mean, I'm a fan of music, man. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
somebody who when I was younger, I got
Mm-hmm.
excited listening to music,
Mm-hmm.
participating. I was like basically someone on my mom's lap. She was an organist and a singer in
Mm-hmm.
church. So I was a drummer in church playing for her, and I didn't even know what to do with myself. I was just so excited about music. And then you fast forward to high school. I just found myself trying to figure out how to play the new Hezekiah Walker song,
Yeah.
the Franklin song. And so,
Yeah.
I had some amazing people just pushing me along the way, inspiring
Mm-hmm.
me, giving me opportunity. And so, after I got my formal training, I really said, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know what, I want to do something with this. And music has just kind of been a part of my being since I was born. So, I'm just a person who has absorbed as much as I could as in all of those roles you mentioned, as a keyboardist, as a singer, as a producer, just have always been into experimenting with all of those things. And I'm grateful to God for bringing it into my life because it's definitely shaped who I am now today.
Mm-hmm. And of course, like as I mentioned, you're from Jersey, so like Jersey has many great talents that came out the state. Um, a lot that came out of Newark and so forth. So how was you able to like create your own signature sound versus sound like this person or that person? How did you create the Samar Newsom sound?
Well, I mean, as you said, Jersey is kind of popular for many, many. I mean, going back into the jazz era, you have, Moody's Move for Love, the writer of
Mm-hmm.
that. You have James Moody, you have Frank Sinatra, you have Whitney Houston, you have Dana Owens, who went to the high school I went to, Queen Latifah. And so, those are people we looked up to in music. My music was more so shaped by the music that I listened to at the time. I was a really big fan of Boyz II Men, Wanye Morris, also from New Jersey, from Willingboro, New Jersey. So, just really a lot of and again, those things didn't even matter. They just were popular people. And so, they just happened to be people who were chart topping and happened to be from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that and you make that what you will. But just my music, again, from being in church, singing with my mom's choirs, and then being a fan of R&B music, I think my music sound was being shaped then, just kind of listening and following and practicing and learning from all of those sources. And again, I'm excited about what God was putting together during that time because I believe that He orchestrated all of it.
Amen. And of course, to take us back even further in the beginning stages, can you share like what inspired you or who inspired you to even really just go all out to be a professional musician and artist?
Oh man, so I mean, that's a funny one. So being a professional artist, I fell in love with being a producer first. So I remember in high school, I started a group. That was just a thing that we did in high
Hmm.
school. You're a singer, you're gonna sing in a singer group. And so, I had some of my friends were in groups. They got signed to, management companies and record companies. And so that was the thing. That was the first thing. And then, I wanted to be a professional back then, but then I started to become more of a keyboardist, more of a musician. And that attracted me more because it had more response to it faster. Like being an artist, we did talent shows, we won talent shows, we had people screaming and we had, prizes and all of that stuff. But being an artist, for some reason, at some point, it just seemed like an insurmountable thing at one
Hmm.
point. especially when I was younger. So I kind of pursued being more of a producer. And I remember the first time I wanted to record a song, my aunt worked for at a studio called Daddy's House.
Mm-hmm.
She was the manager for Daddy's House, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to her like, "Hey, I want to record this song." And she's like, "Well, let me hear it." And I'm like, I'm like, I'm not ready to sing it for you." And she's like,
Yeah.
"All right, well, when you're ready to sing it, you can record it." But like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about a state of the art, the studio that, Biggie and
Yeah.
112 were recording
Mm-hmm.
in, so,
A lot of history.
I was asking, I didn't know what I was asking for at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but she was challenging me on a very basic level. And I'll never forget that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
challenging me to think like, okay, if you're an artist, you have to embrace this, and now you have to be ready to
Indeed.
show what you're asking for. And so that
Mm-hmm.
was an important lesson for me. I ended up writing the song, and I didn't even have the song written that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? So just to show, like, she knew way better than I did, having
Yeah.
been around, major artists. So
Mm-hmm.
that was like kind of my beginning of being an artist. I recorded my
Mm-hmm.
first song. I brought all of my friends that sang with me in high school. I brought
Mm-hmm.
my family. I got a big family that sings. I brought my uncles that sing. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
just putting everybody on the track.
Everybody else.
Get in the booth too. You know what I'm saying? And it was the first track that I produced and I
Mm-hmm.
recorded and I got like a finished product for. So it was actually an amazing experience.
That's awesome, man. Um, so to transition a little bit, I want to touch on three of your songs. Um, so the first one being "Can't Run Away," featuring one of the good brothers, Sunders Sermon.
Yeah.
Of course, "I Feel Good," and the last being the latest single, "Well, Well, Well," featuring Darwin Hobbs. So can you share what inspired those particular songs or the stories behind those particular songs?
Oh, for sure. So, Can't Run Away. Let's talk with that one. So that was from an album that I put out in 2008 called Depths of My Soul. That was my first album as an artist that I produced and put out. And Saunders Sermons, he's a two-time Grammy Award winning trombonist and singer,
Mm-hmm.
play with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a front row seat at his career because that's my cousin, that's my
Mm-hmm.
family. So
Nice.
he used to live with me in Newark. So when he lived with me, I was showing him how easy it was to record on Pro Tools and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
one while I was working on the record, I said, "Yo, we should do a song together." So you hear his
Mm-hmm.
horn on it, you hear him singing
Yeah.
on it. So all of that, we just was vibing. I mean, we got
Mm-hmm.
records for days in there, but like that was just the one we just decided to put out. And as a matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, as I think about it, that's you just gave me an idea. That's a good record. But anyway,
Yeah.
because you do records sometimes in history, and you just like it had its time, but some
Mm-hmm.
things you can just revive and they have opportunities.
Yeah.
So, but you just reminded me of such a good record.
Mm-hmm.
I had another record on there with another cousin of mine, Oscilla Battles. She was a
Yeah,
back.
that's a nice. Yeah, I love that record too.
Oh yeah, Cherish. She
Yeah.
was a singer with Fantasia. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess she sang with Diddy. I got to see them
Mm-hmm.
perform with Diddy, both of them
Mm-hmm.
together. So I mean, like just that came out of just family, ties.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yo, let's do something together. We both pursuing this music thing. And so that's where that one came from.
Mm-hmm.
Darwin, I worked with Darwin at a church that I used to work at called
Mm-hmm.
Christian Cultural Center.
Okay.
When I was the musical director there, which he was
Mm-hmm.
instrumental in me becoming a musical director, he and I became
Mm-hmm.
really good friends, and
Mm-hmm.
even to this day. And when I decided to do this record, I said, you know what, I want to do a record with you, because
Mm-hmm.
he's a icon in the
Mm-hmm.
gospel world,
Indeed. Yeah.
specifically worship and praise and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so I'm like, man, let's do this funky record I got, man. And
Mm-hmm.
he was just down. He just did his thing on it. So I appreciate my brother for
Mm-hmm.
helping me, because he's an amazing artist and his own right. But
Mm-hmm.
he's my brother, so he was like, cool, man, whatever you need. So
Mm-hmm. And even before I heard that particular record with Summers, I actually met him. I was a kid. He used
oh,
to
okay.
be I have a cousin named Darius Dockley Baker in Tallahassee, Florida. They used to play
Yeah.
a lot of gigs together. So I don't even know if he remember me or not, but I was a little kid at the time, just following my
Wow.
cousin around, just trying to pick up different musician things. So
Wow.
big shout outs to him and his. amazing things that he's doing as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, so the transition, when you put all these different songs together, for your albums and your EPs and all these different things, or just creating a single, how do you know when it's time to release the single, or if it's an album, how do you go about picking a single for this?
That's a great question. I mean, there's so many processes. I mean, I feel like a great A&R guy. He's
Mm-hmm.
an A&R for an old, record label I used to do work for. And he used
Mm-hmm.
to say, music should come together as a story that's kind of a cohesive story of things that work together. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when I did Depths of My Soul, one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I wanted to make sure is that the songs kind of fit together and
Mm-hmm.
gave enough variety on the record. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so even I got to write with Israel Houghton one time
Nice.
for a big project actually.
Mm-hmm.
And in writing on it, I remember like him saying like there was a song that had 6/8 in it already. So we already
Mm-hmm.
had a 6/8 song. And he kind of shied away from more 6/8 songs. We were in
Mm-hmm.
writing session. And he's like, yeah, we already have a 6/8. So like even
Mm-hmm.
just kind of working with somebody on that legendary status, it's like you're
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of like not oversaturating a certain style. So
Mm-hmm.
some of it is like just making sure you have variety. Some of it is
Mm-hmm.
making sure the project has a cohesiveness to it when you're putting together an album. When you ask about when to know if a record is time to put it out or something like that, that's
Mm-hmm.
another question you asked.
Yes.
I think you gotta like pray on it. You gotta like
Mm-hmm.
kind of listen to it enough times and just kind of get make sure that it's the right thing that you believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You kind of have to believe it. But for me, I study also the record industry. If you look at the record industry, there is a pattern
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that you
Yes.
can notice how they release. And like, many of the most popular artists will
Mm-hmm.
release a really, really strong first single, and then the next one kind of can hit even stronger than the first one
Yes.
because
Mm-hmm.
they'll have at least two or three, maybe four sometimes, like
Mm-hmm.
some mega stars. And
Mm-hmm.
just really just making sure you got strong songs. I think the
Mm-hmm.
content of the song matters. I think,
Indeed.
musically it has to be inviting. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a lot of tangible things that you can look at and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this song has this song has that, it has that. And then
Mm-hmm.
timing is a matter that you have to consider as well.
Indeed. And then, in your opinion, like, what has been the biggest accomplishment, one in your life, personal life, and then two, your music career?
Wow, that's great. Ooh. I've had some great accomplishments
Mm-hmm.
musically. Like I said, I was the musical director for a mega church, over
Mm-hmm.
50,000 member church, and I thought
Wow.
that was an amazing accomplishment. Especially, it wasn't something that I set out to do. It was just
Mm-hmm.
something that really God elevated me to, and it was
Mm-hmm.
organic, and it was an amazing experience. I got to play for like probably almost any gospel artist you can name,
Mm-hmm.
William Murphy, um,
Nice.
PC, Kim Burrell, Fred
Mm-hmm.
Hammond, just got to
Wow.
lead the band with all of these people. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was an amazing experience in and of itself, working with Israel, Darwin, all of these people,
Mm-hmm.
like amazing stuff. And so that was one of the highlights as a musician. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as an artist, those were two different things. So as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
like, I just did my first international show a couple of weeks
Nice.
ago, which was kind of dope. So I mean, like I know as an artist, I'm growing.
Mm-hmm.
This I had a top 30 single last
Mm-hmm.
year. I feel good. So all of those things kind of were great accomplishments. And of course, I'm looking forward to God to doing even bigger things. So
Mm-hmm. And just to touch on I Feel Good Again, I think the first time I heard it, I probably played it maybe 20 times over repeat. I was like, man, because such of a good feel good. Like it's in the title, of course. It feels good to you, like, soon as you turn on from the bass line to everything that's going on, like underneath the track. Because I'm the type I'll dissect every little part. So, I think it's one of those classic songs that's gonna last, forever. Even after we're gone, there's still gonna be people playing that particular song.
amen.
Um, so, uh, just to dive a little deeper into the person, um, what is one of the biggest obstacles like you had to face in life when you that you really had to exercise your faith in God to
Hmm.
get through it?
Wow, that's an amazing question too. I mean, that also there's many things I can point to. I mean,
Hmm.
I grew up with my mom as a single mom. That definitely was something that, we navigated through faith. My mom always tells the story about how my mom's like, God raised y'all. I didn't, like there was a point where she's like, her situation kind of got out of control from her understanding how to navigate it. And she said, I just put it in God's hands. And, the outcome for myself and my brothers, um, she really was like, just wow, God did that. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to say that that's the first thing I could point to, because, things changed. You know what I mean? When my dad, kind of had to step away,
Hmm.
things changed
Hmm.
drastically. And so, navigating that was a very challenging thing that really it shaped my faith. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because one, it drew me to church as a musician, and I
Hmm.
kind of embraced that. So I appreciate that adversity that brought me to him. And then there's been other times in my life, even like, when I left the mega church, that was a big change for me. And so, those things just really allowed me to just really look forward at God and just say, like, I'm moving at your pace. I'm not anxious for anything. I'm not,
Hmm.
you've brought me to mountains before, and you've brought me through valleys before. And so,
Hmm.
I can look at those things, and a song like Well, or even I Feel Good, they come from that place. Like even in
Hmm.
2020 during the pandemic, I went from, having an amazing salary with my gift to basically nothing with the
Wow.
gift. I
Hmm.
but I still had a job, I'm a teacher, so
Hmm.
I still had a
Hmm.
job. But like, I kind of my salary had gone in half, in my
Hmm.
opinion. But then God showed up even in that, so God
Hmm.
restored that. And so all of those things just kind of like these songs specifically came out of the pandemic, just those
Hmm.
things. And like, wow, I wasn't like I got sick, you know what I'm saying, during the pandemic, but like,
Uh-huh.
it was a recovery. It was just kind of
Hmm.
the same things that everybody kind of got, the symptoms,
Yeah.
the not being able to taste or smell those
Hmm.
things. And so, the recovery from that, just both from a spiritual place and from
Hmm.
a financial place, like I just mentioned, like those things kind of forced you to rely on God, And so now this particular approach of my career is all by faith,
Hmm.
because, while I would have had a lot more resource to just do it and try it, now I'm
Hmm.
at a point where God has put me in a place where it's like, you're gonna rely on me, my son. And
Yes.
and it's great when you really understand it. At first it's
Hmm.
uncomfortable, and I'll be honest, like it was an uncomfortable transition for me, but um,
Hmm.
I love it. You know what I'm saying? Because
Hmm.
I love to know that God is there. One, two, I've seen him do this before. So it's
Hmm.
not like he hasn't shown up in my life before and I had to rely on him. And
Hmm.
so I have the history to rely on, that God has actually been faithful and that he's
Hmm.
going to continue to be. And so I just look forward to it. And that's, I give him praise just for that all the time. Just like, God, you're faithful, you've been faithful, and I'm just looking forward to how you're going to outdo what you've done already.
Hmm. And before we get out of here, there was some supporters or fans, however you might classify them. They sent some questions in for you. So if you're open to it, we can knock out some of those before we go.
Sure.
The first person they want to know, when you're not doing music, what are some of your hobbies?
Oh, I like to cook. And
Okay.
I'm a movie buff. I love movies. I love TV.
Hmm.
I also like sports radio. So like a
Hmm.
lot of times as a producer, I listen to music all the time. I'm a music teacher. I do music. So
mhm,
a lot of times, just even in the car, not even in the
mhm,
full downtime, I'm listening
mhm,
to sports radio. I listen to
yeah,
audiobooks. Like
mhm,
I just, I'm very big on financial education. So that's
mhm,
a thing that like kind of stimulates me, like looking
mhm.
into financial, the markets, all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. So those are all things that also like kind of stimulate my brain when I'm not
Mhm,
doing music. So.
mhm. And of course, we have the NBA playoffs going on. Do you have a team that you're rooting for that's still in?
Oh man. I mean, you know what? I find myself rooting for a lot of underdogs
Mhm.
sometimes. Like, I think the Warriors are kind of an underdog right now.
Yeah. Oh,
Even though they're champions,
yeah.
they still are not what they were, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But I want to see Jimmy Buckets get something.
Yeah, for
I'd
sure.
love to see him win. Um, uh, so I'm kind of Minnesota. I'm rooting
Mhm.
for them, because I
Mhm.
want to see Anthony do something. The
Mhm.
Knicks, I want to see the Knicks do something. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
these are all to me underdogs. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because I feel like that's my point of view sometimes is to look at like the person who you don't think is going to do it or
Mhm.
the odds are against them because I find myself, or you just as a Christian sometimes that's how I feel like sometimes the odds are against us or the world could be against us or some oppositions against us, but God has given us the victory. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how those outcomes work out.
Yeah. And big shout out to the Warriors, even though they almost gave me several heart attacks last night. Uh, good, good
Yeah,
win,
yeah.
fellas. Good win,
They
fellas.
looked like they wasn't going to do it, and they were all kind of rolling on the ground in the first half,
Yeah,
like all that crazy stuff.
yeah. It was a lot going on in yesterday's game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the next question that was sent in, of course, you're an artist, musician, and producer, amongst other things. But uh, do you prefer one over the other?
Oh, so that's a great one. I mean, so I really, it's funny. These are funny things. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like the thing that attracted me to being a musician is not the
Mhm,
same thing anymore. But at the
mhm,
beginning, it was like I remember I played for drums for a church, and
mhm.
the lady gave me $25, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'll come back next time. And then the next time, the keyboardist wasn't there. And she was like,
Mhm,
you know how to play? And I was like practicing a little bit. So I
mhm.
jumped on the keyboard and she paid me like double. I was like,
Wow.
what? I said, you know what? I'm about to do this. This is what I'm about to do. So, that was definitely a motivating factor. And I think it was a motivating factor coming from a person who didn't have a lot of means, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Mom didn't have a lot
Yeah.
of money. She did
Mhm,
amazing for us.
mhm,
She
mhm,
refused to have us be in like poverty. So she
mhm,
just struggled in that middle class place, you know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And
Yeah.
she pushed like, listen, I grew up in the projects. I don't want y'all to grow up in the project.
Yeah.
So we struggled in the house, but because she made that sacrifice, we didn't know what
Mhm.
it was like to be in the projects. And that was
Yeah.
her choice. She said
Mhm,
that. So, I mean, again, nothing against it. It builds what it builds for you. But I
mhm.
think that my mom made ultimate sacrifices. And then
Indeed.
honestly, because I didn't have much, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find this money somewhere. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that was one of the motivations. But like, what do
Mhm,
I love to do the most? I like to put a project together. So I think as a producer, I really
mhm,
enjoy that. But they all are good. Like, I mean,
mhm,
I love performing. I love like
mhm,
the nervousness of it and kind of seeing what the crowd reacts to
mhm,
and then as a producer and then as a musician, I really just love playing. I love playing with some amazing cats, which I get to do kind of
mhm,
regularly. So I love them all.
mhm. Awesome. Awesome. And then, of course, you collaborated on most like over 100 songs. Was there a time during the collaboration you were starstruck because you've been at Data Sound Studios, done your own thing. So, like, has there been a time you were starstruck? Whether it's with the Fred Hammonds, the Israel Holdens. Did you ever have one of those moments?
Probably the only time I was probably starstruck, I remember when I think I was a junior in high school,
Hmm.
and I was in this thing called the peer helpers, peer leadership. And
Hmm.
so we went on a trip my junior year this summer. We went to Orlando, Florida, and
Mm-hmm.
we did a peer helpers conference, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a Monica concert
Oh,
in,
nice.
in the daytime. So I
Mm-hmm.
went and I got to meet Monica, and that was like the only time I was starstruck. One, I was attracted to her, two, and we were like the same age. But
Yeah.
and musically, I was a fan, But I
Mm-hmm.
think as an artist, and not just as an artist, as a musician, as I grew up, like, I got to meet artists. I remember one of the first artists I produced for was Al B. Sure. And
Nice.
producing for him, I got to be in the studio with him, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a regular dude, really cool dude from from
Mm-hmm.
New York, and
Mm-hmm.
that was like my introduction to like, okay, you're gonna meet people. When my aunt
Mm-hmm.
worked at the studio, I met
Yeah.
112, I met
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Diddy, like these people, they're people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
you get the chat, like, don't get all crazy because these are
Yeah.
and at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, they're actually a lot cooler when you treat them like they're people because they don't get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that treat them normal. So,
Yeah.
so over my career, especially at the church and just at
Mm-hmm.
different moments, I played for Jill
Mm-hmm.
Scott, that was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And just people are just so cool. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody's cool, but those people
Yeah.
are, what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I never got starstruck except for Monica. That made me starstruck.
Yeah, she's always been amazing. I have a friend, she does BGVs like for her now. So hopefully,
Nice.
can hook up those do like a combination type concert or something pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she did a gospel record with James Ford.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I love that record as well.
good record. Yeah.
Uh, and of course, we can go out and minister at these different events. Is there like do you have like a most requested song that people always ask you to sing?
Oh, it's interesting. So I told you I had my first international concert a
Hmm.
couple weeks ago, and they requested a song off my first album called Miseducation.
Yeah, I
And
love that one too.
Miseducation plays really, really well in London. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
for decades, you know what I'm saying, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. So it's amazing. I mean, most people want to hear like I feel good these days,
Hmm.
and well, 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 I'm sure will be, just as popular. So
Hmm. And then, of course, before we go, who has been the most impactful person in your life to help shape who you are today?
oh, my mom, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah, my
Okay.
mom is a musician. She recorded back in the day with a
Hmm.
amazing musician, producer,
Hmm.
songwriter named Donnie Harper, who's
Hmm.
responsible for the song Praise Him.
Hmm.
Praise him, Jesus,
Hmm.
the Savior. He's worthy to be praised. He wrote that. So, and my mom
Hmm.
was recording with him before I was born. And
Hmm.
just my mom, she's just a epitome of resilience,
Hmm.
epitome of like faithfulness to God and a person of great faith and great character. So, my mom has shaped me the most out of anybody I could ever say in this world. I mean, and rightfully so. She's an amazing woman. I'm grateful to still have her here.
Hmm.
She always tells me how proud she is to see the things that, my music is doing because obviously,
Hmm.
this was something that she did as well and wanted to do as well. And I actually got to put out an album with her in
Hmm.
2016. I put out an album with her. And that was one of the greatest accomplishments because it was something that she always wanted, and I was glad to be able to participate in that.
As you was talking about it, I thought this other question. Did you ever feel pressure to succeed, considering that she's had, been a part of these different things? And
No, I never had pressure to. I mean, like I feel like the pressure that I have to succeed, and I don't look at it as pressure. I look at it as like kind of a mandate and kind of a like expectation that
hmm.
God gave me these gifts. And
Hmm.
like you mentioned that I have multiple things that I do, and I believe
Hmm.
that God expects to see a return on all of those things. It's like the parable of the talents.
Hmm.
God wants to see his return on his investment. And so, I'm
Hmm.
very cautious to make sure that especially now, being a good steward over his investment, over what he's
Hmm.
given me, and just making sure that I can maximize it and not squander it.
Hmm. And then, of course, before we have a couple more before we go, of course, you just released the latest single, featuring Darwin Hawes. What else can we expect in 2025 from
So
Samar Newsome?
2025, very good. I mean, so I'm expecting to release a full EP, which
Okay.
is basically done. I just been trying to see when I wanted to release it,
Hmm.
especially around the singles. I didn't want to like
Hmm.
compete with the singles, but what I'm gonna do, I'm likely gonna just for all the fans, so those of you who are interested in what we
Hmm.
do, what I do, I definitely want you to be a part of it. So make sure that you
Hmm.
are following me on social media. You're part of my sign up sheet, all the groups that I have, because I'm going to be putting out exclusive access to the people who follow me. And that's where I'm going to definitely release the EP later this year.
And for people to go and do that, is it like samarnewsome.com or what's the website for
Yeah,
that?
you could just so you could tap in with me on my Instagram. That's the best way. Instagram and Facebook. If you go to my Instagram or my Facebook, in my bio, there's a link tree, and that link
Mhm.
tree has all the links. If you get to the link tree, you got to everything. And even one of my posts is a QR code. So you could
Mhm.
just go to that QR code to get to that link tree. And again, I'm looking forward to, I mean, I appreciate everyone who listens
Mhm.
and likes the music. I believe that God created it and inspired it for me to create. And so I'm just grateful for those that it touches. And I would love to
Mhm.
keep in touch with everybody and get that exclusive stuff to them.
And for the promoters that's listening, can they go to that to your Instagram as well for like a booking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a booking email attached to
Hmm.
there, but it's just really go book Samar at
Hmm.
Gmail. And so, those things are just there.
Hmm.
And again, I'm very accessible, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
My team is accessible. So just
Hmm.
the just the links in the bio will catch you can catch up to me, definitely.
And then if someone like wanted to sow a seed into your ministry, how would they do that?
The same thing, man. I mean,
Okay.
just reach out, there's it's easy. It's not
Okay.
it's hard to do. I mean,
Hmm.
I never thought about that, but I can
Hmm.
definitely put that in the link tree as well and just
Hmm.
say, you want to donate to the ministry and just have
Hmm.
an opportunity to do that. I think that that's definitely something that we'll do
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah, because guys, production costs, paying musicians costs, paying singers costs, Wi-Fi that run everything costs. So definitely
Absolutely.
sow Steven to our good brother. He's doing some amazing things behind the
Thank
scenes for other artists. He's doing his own thing on top of that. So definitely get behind our good brother and promote his book. This man, he has some, he has a anointed voice. He's a great brother. So bring him to your town and just show him some real love. So again, guys, we're joined by the incredible Samar Newsome. Keep it locked here. We have his latest single, Well, 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 featuring our good brother Darwin Hobbs coming out right about